Ladies and gentlemen, in today's video, we're gonna make some history in the Dynasty community. Let me explain. So, look, there's nothing wrong with a traditional buy low, sell high type of video. I love making them just as much as the next person. I think they're very useful in our industry, but they usually don't account for the overall market value of each position at specific times of the year. So for example, you've probably heard buy running backs low in the offseason and then sell running backs high in season. But let's be honest, there's rarely any actual data behind those takes until today. All right. Our team here at Land has analyzed over 3 years of monthly positional values, over 3,700 data points, and we now have rock solid data that shows you exactly when to buy and sell every single position. For the very first time, ladies and gentlemen, I am introducing the Dynasty Trade Dial, a tool that helps you buy and sell every position at its peak value every single month, every single year. All right, I want to give a huge shout out to our lead research analyst, Scott Kaufman, aka Scooch. You can see his Twitter handle here if you want to follow him. He dived deep into the weeds for this data, and he is a very bright mind. So in today's video specifically, we're going to look at which positions you should be buying or selling specifically in the months of April and May. That way, you've got a data-backed plan to go out there and dominate dynasty trades over the next 2 months. By the way, all Land Flock members will have access to this tool in the Discord. Just make sure that you link your Discord on the Flock site. Please DM me if you have any questions whatsoever, and I'll make sure that you get yourself up and running over there on the Discord. All right, over the last 3 years, let's start with the running back position. Y'all ready? Let's get into the nitty gritty here. Over the last 3 years, when looking at average values for the running back position in Dynasty football, April has been a strong hold month, while May kind of creeps into a soft buy stretch. So again, big shout out to Scoots here, who was able to collect this data. Again, over 3,700 data points over the past 3 years. You can see April and May, again, a soft buy that you see creeps from April to May. And again, all Land members, check your Discord. You should now officially be able to see Land exclusives like the Dynasty Dial. Right now, I'm showing you the pretty version that you guys will see in Discord, but of course, part of it is locked because we want our Land members to really have that benefit, right, in their own dynasty leagues. So you can see again from the graph that after the draft in May, you get a nice little buy low window. Think about why that might be the case. Again, we overreact to the draft sometimes. Just last year in 2024, Kyron Williams, after the Blake Corum pick, look at his value. It took a huge dip in the market right after the NFL draft. I wonder why that was. Josh Jacobs last year as well, after the Marshawn Lloyd pick, again, had this huge contract extension. You know, the Packers committed so much money to him, and still there was a huge dip after the Packers drafted a running back in round 3, and rightfully so. Marshawn Lloyd, right, went down with the injury. We don't know exactly what he would have done in that offense. How about James Conner last year as well? They took Trey Benson in round 3, the Cardinals did, and again, there was another little dip in his market. You can go back to 2023, the Ken Walker example, right? He actually dipped really far in value after the Zach Charbonnet pick. And again, you see names like Alvin Kamara after the Kendre Miller pick, Derrick Henry after the Tajay Spears pick. So obviously at this point, it might not be wise to go out and buy running backs yet because we haven't had that overreaction period. But here is a list of running backs that I would have a strong hold tag on, as I don't envision their workload being in jeopardy this year. Okay, you ready? I'm going to give you over 12 names here. These are the running backs that I think are safe to hold. You can think about acquiring them in a soft buy scenario. Okay, so Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, the creme de la creme in Dynasty rookie running backs. They're not going to be replaced in the draft. We know that. Saquon Barkley, all right? We know Saquon Barkley's not about to get replaced, right? Bucky Irving, you might disagree with me, but I believe Bucky Irving's about to lead this team in 2025. They are not thinking about the running back position. They already have Sean Tucker, Rachaad White. Maybe they're thinking about for the future, but they're not going to spend high draft capital on it. How about Devon Achane, right? Who led this backfield last year. They brought in Jalen Wright. Yes, they're letting go of Raheem Mostert, but they still have Jalen Wright ready to fill those shoes. How about Jonathan Taylor? I do not get concerned about him. Josh Jacobs, they just drafted a running back last year. Chuba Hubbard, they already signed Rico Dowdle as a backup. Christian McCaffrey, I think they probably draft a running back, but not someone that's going to threat his touches. Ken Walker, Zach Charbonnet, that backfield seems solidified, along with the Cardinals backfield and the Vikings backfield. And then, of course, after the NFL draft, take a mental note, put something in your calendar. But remember, come back to this video and look at the information and pounce on those overreactions, those panic sells in the market. All right, let's move on to the wide receiver position. Over the last 3 years, April and May have consistently delivered the lowest and third lowest average values for the wide receiver position. So you'll see, this is indicating to us a hard buy. Again, you'll see the months of April and May kind of in the weeds there. The values of these wide receivers are not the same as what they look like in season. And here's a pretty representation of that. Again, our land members will unlock this entire thing in our Discord. But why is that the case? Like, why are they a hard buy right now? I'm honestly not sure. I mean, we're still learning a lot about this data ourselves. It's very new. Shout out to Scoots again. I'm sure free agency plays a part. The NFL draft, adding rookies into consensus rankings. I'm sure all that plays a part. However, all I want to do is take advantage of this window and go out and buy some wide receivers that I really, really love. So I've compiled a list of receivers that I think you should go buy based off this information. For wide receivers I want to buy now that I've already talked about in recent videos. For example, Rashee Rice, if you want to hear a full take about that, watch my 6 moves to make video I've already put up on the channel. I also want to go out and buy Devontae Adams, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze. You can go look at those takes in my Target These Players video. I give in-depth takes on those 4 names, but here are 3 other guys I want to go out and buy right now. Starting with DK Metcalf. All right, why DK Metcalf? Look, I was originally very skeptical about DK in Pittsburgh myself. I hated the fit with George Pickens. They don't complement each other. I hated the fact that Arthur Smith was leading this offense, no quarterback. However, the contract is just ridiculous. You have to believe that he will be the feature weapon in this Steelers offense. So obviously the Steelers go out, they trade a 2nd-round pick for him. Then they give him a 5-year, $150 million contract. I mean, the guy is making the 4th most annually at the position. He is $1 million per year off CeeDee Lamb's contract. He is just $2 million per year off of Justin Jefferson's contract. I mean, he's making more money than A.J. Brown and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I hate the situation. I hear you if you feel that way, but I just cannot see this team not featuring him as their premier weapon in their offense, right? He's 4th in total money amongst wide receivers annually. All right, number 2, how about Brandon Ayuk? He got the contract extension in 2024. I think he's consistently being disrespected in markets. No Deebo Samuel. We're just 1 year removed from a season with 15.6 PPR points per game and over 1,400 receiving yards. You'll see that back in 2023. And I believe we'll get that yards per reception number back up with a healthy CMC who will create more of a balanced approach from the defense week in and week out. How about Josh Downs as well? I think he's a great buy right now for the wide receiver position. Josh has been held back by quarterback play his entire career. I truly believe this is a flexible name week in, week out with the right quarterback. We saw that last year with his splits with and without Anthony Richardson. On the left side, you'll see with Anthony Richardson. On the right side, you'll see without Anthony Richardson. Again, with these splits, it's about even 8 versus 6 games. The PPR points are up to 14, almost 14 and a half. His receptions are from 3.7 to about 7 receptions per game. Again, that accuracy is what Anthony Richardson is missing. No surprise, right? The targets are from 6 to 9.5, and the receiving yards go up about 11 receiving yards per game. So if Anthony Richardson takes a year 3 leap and improves as a passer, great. Josh Downs is going to have a great season. If not, Daniel Jones truly can't get any worse than Anthony Richardson for supporting a wide receiver in fantasy football. And Daniel Jones has a history of supporting slot-specific receivers like Wan'Dale Robinson. So go buy some of these receivers. It's a hard buy window. All right, let's move on to the quarterback position. So over the last 3 years, quarterbacks have had the highest average value in the months of April and May, including their peak value in May itself. So you'll see, again, based off this research, 3,700 plus data points, deep and dirty into the spreadsheets, you will see that April and May are a hard sell month. I mean, you could argue that post NFL draft, you have the most leverage, but both of these months are incredible selling periods. And again, you can see it's going to look a little more pretty for our land members over there on the Discord. To be honest, there aren't really any quarterbacks that I'm actively really itching to sell right now in the market. And let me be very clear, this data doesn't tell you that you just have to sell every player at every position during these times. It's more if you're looking to be active, these are, the moments where you can take advantage of each position's either peak or dip, if that makes sense, in the market value. So look, if you are looking to tear down from a quarterback, while I'm not specifically looking to sell any quarterbacks in particular, if you're looking to tear down from a quarterback, now is the time. So if you are pursuing a 1-year punt, if you're pursuing a rebuild, or if you want to tear down from a top name to compete in a larger league, let's say you're in a Superflex Start 11 league, then this idea is for you. The Josh Allens, the Lamar Jacksons, the Jalen Hurts, now is a good time to tear down from these names if you are in those situations. And there are plenty of tear down options depending on your build. So for example, names like Drake May, Caleb Williams, Justin Herbert, Bo Nix, Kyler, CJ, Love, Purdy, Baker, Goff, Dak, Penix, Trevor, and JJ McCarthy are all great tear down options. Obviously, it depends on your build. If you're a rebuild team, I'm not going to tell you to tear down from Lamar Jackson to Dak Prescott or Jared Goff or Baker Mayfield, right? We're probably going to tell you, let's tear down from Lamar Jackson. Let's go get a Caleb Williams, a Bo Nix, a JJ McCarthy, a Michael Penix. If you're that example I was talking about where you want to compete right now and you want more leverage on your overall roster and a deeper starting lineup, then yes, we can look at tearing down from Jalen Hurts and let's go get Dak Prescott and a top tier receiver, right? So obviously context is very important. Here are some Josh Allen examples from real trades that have happened in real leagues from the Flock database, okay? So someone sent away Josh Allen for Brian Thomas and Jordan Love in a Start 14 league. That's exactly what I'm talking about right there. A Start 14 league, that is a massive starting lineup. You're definitely going to benefit from having a Brian Thomas and still having a really good quarterback like Jordan Love in your lineup. Here's another example in a 10-team Start 11, another big starting lineup. Someone traded Josh Allen for Penix, Marvin Harrison, and the 105. This is a great time to pursue these kind of trades. Here's another example here from a 12-team Start 10. Someone sent away Josh Allen for Trevor Lawrence, Josh Downs, the 106, a future first, and a second and a couple fourth-round picks. All right, how about Lamar Jackson? Well, here's an example of someone sending away Tyreek Hill and Lamar Jackson. They got back Bo Nix, Ladd McConkey, and a future first-round pick. Another example in a Start 11, again, a deeper format. Someone sent away Lamar Jackson in a second for Jordan Love, the 105 and the 109. That is, again, another good trade for these rebuilding teams. Here's a great example of a competing team with a big starting lineup doing a tear down. So for example, Lamar Jackson and Jaylen Warren in a Start 11 to Kyren Williams, CJ Stroud, and the 110. And last but not least for these quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts. So here's an example, Jalen Hurts to Penix, and the 105 and the 304. Here's another example. Jalen Hurts to JJ McCarthy, the 26 first, and the 105. These are two good examples where if you're a rebuilder, these tear downs make a lot of sense in the market's current state. All right, last position we'll talk about here, obviously the tight end position. Over the last 3 years, April and May have given us the second and third highest average value for the position. So that does lean me towards a sell. Now, full transparency, the tight end position as a whole, and this really isn't surprising, I don't think, to any of us, is pretty much a sell every month outside of the months in the season itself. Why do you think that correlates? Like, why do you guys think that makes sense? It makes sense because we all forget how truly bad the tight end position is, and then we have this idea of all these tight ends that are going to perform well in season, and then typically most of them don't, and then we're all devaluing tight ends come October when we're deep into our fantasy football seasons, right? But by this time of the offseason, April and May, we truly forget how terrible the tight end position is, right? We start to hear people give takes on a group of tight ends that are about to break out, right? Like this tight end's about to break out. The position looks better than it actually is. We get people talking about this and, you end up with a nice little sell peak in these moments. And again, you can see how beautiful this looks over on the Land Discord. But with that in mind, here are some tight ends that I would say are a soft sell. You don't need to sell these guys, but if you are looking to sell tight ends, here's some examples. So for example, Tucker Kraft. And I know even mentioning Tucker Kraft in a sell video is going to send me to the gulag for everybody in Dynasty football, okay? But here's the deal. Tucker Kraft, making a case for it. This is everyone's favorite 2025 breakout tight end candidate. If everyone has the same breakout candidate for the tight end position, there is clearly enough hype around a name where you can look at a trade. The Packers have already met with 4 wide receivers pre-draft, and Luke Musgrave, who is a very good prospect in his own right. He is. He has not been healthy. He is set to be healthy in 2025. I still think Kraft is going to be great. I still think Kraft is going to be the tight end one. However, what I would like to do with Kraft is not just sell him straight up for capital, but in an ideal world, and we can sell him if you get like a first round pick, but in an ideal world, you use Kraft in a trade to tier up to an asset we love. So for example, here's a real trade that happened in real leagues on the Flock database here. Someone sent away Kraft in the 107. They got back Roma Dunze in the 211. That is exactly what I'm talking about right now. That's the type of asset we want to use Kraft to go out and acquire. Now, here's another example in a 12-team start 10 where someone was able to get a first-round pick this year. If these are the prices in your leagues, please pounce on it. If not, that's why it's a soft, season right now. All right, George Kittle. Look, there is probably not going to be another time in Dynasty football where George Kittle is more valuable than he is today. Why do I say that? Because we all know how much age factors in to consensus tight end rankings, any position rankings, right? Tight ends play longer into their 30s, but we know damn well that every year George Kittle gets older, people will value him less and less and less, especially as we just saw Travis Kelce fall off, right? In these recent years. But no Deebo Samuel. We all are going to fall in love with that target share that we're talking about. George Kittle is going to be 32 years old this year. There's not much he can do to improve his value. So if you were looking to sell him, here are some names that you can get back. So send Kittle in a late second for Jordan Addison. I love that, right? Send Kittle in a third for a first round pick, if that's possible. This person got a first and a second, probably sent that to a contending team. The last tight end that I think is probably a good sell right now is Jonnu Smith. I might be more bullish on Jonnu Smith than any other position, unless, of course, you're a real contender. You have a Windows open roster. But Jonnu Smith, in 2024, that was his only year over 600 receiving yards in his entire career. If you look at 2017 to 2023, he averaged about 346 receiving yards per year in those years. And look, if Tyreek Hill is actually back and healthy, which is a big if, I understand, then Jonnu Smith could definitely lose a big portion of his target share that he saw last year when Tyreek was dealing with that injury. So if you can go out there and sell Jonnu Smith for a mid to late second this year, I think you're probably going to thank yourself in about a year's time. So I appreciate you guys watching the video. Please let me know what you think. Again, shout out to all our land members who are supporting us on the Flock site. We want to do everything we can to say thank you. And the Dynasty Trade Dial is just one of those examples that we've been innovating on the back end. And go check it out on the Discord. As long as you've linked your Discord on the site, you will be able to access our land exclusives tab. And, I would also suggest to you guys, don't share this with your friends. I mean, you can. It's not about being exclusive, but if you share the Dynasty Dial with your friends, then, eventually everyone's going to have that information anyway, right? So think about that as well. But that is it for today, guys. I appreciate you for watching the video, and I'll see you guys in a future one very soon. Nothing but love. Peace. If you're thinking about supporting us in this economy, that's big love, and you deserve love in return. So for every yearly Mother Flocker member who uses the promo code LAND, we're giving out a free team playbook, our 2025 rookie report, access to all premium tools, free site vouchers, and of course, a huge thank you from the LAND crew. You're far too kind. That's love.